Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today, Monday, the beginning of the school week, wherever you are tuning in from Twitter or Facebook inside of our community. Thank you so much for joining Rachelle and I. And we are here. We have a guest we're going to introduce in just a moment. But first, Rachelle, how are you doing today?
I'm hanging in there. I feel like you just asked me that question, but it was in fact a week ago. I mean, just amazingly, the time flies, but the days are so long. But I'm doing well because I'm excited, as always, to talk to you, to talk to our guests, to see who joins in with us and interacts with us here in our community. And so it's a Monday, but it's a good Monday.
It is a Monday, and I'm also very excited to be here with you. It is something I look forward to on Mondays and Fridays. And if you're tuning in, and we have a community here on Facebook, it's called Thrive in EDU. So if you just want to go to facebook.com/groups, what you see on the banner, Thrive in EDU, we'd love to have you because we talk all week long about things we're doing. We network and we share things that we've been creating. And we just want to know, how are you doing today? You know, it's okay if you're not having a great day. You don't have to be what is that, toxic positive? Like, it's okay. Share with us how you're doing. And Rachelle, tell us about our guest who's coming today.
Yeah, so I'm excited for our guest who, I almost said guest. I need to wake up. I'm excited for our guest who I have known for a couple of years from conferences, from Twitter, and we have a connection with Pittsburgh. And so Jess Boyce is our guest today, and Jess is with FlipGrid. So not only has she been an educator for many years and have we connected at different conferences for that, but still stay connected, of course. And so I'm so happy to have Jess join us today. So welcome to Jess.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi, Jess, and it's nice to meet you. I know Rachelle knows everybody, but I usually am just meeting people for the first time.
Nice
but tell us a little bit. It's nice to meet you. Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I was a middle school math educator for about 10 years. I started, so the connection Rachelle and I have, I'm also from Pittsburgh. I actually live in Florida now because I got sick of the cold weather and had to get out of there. But I was teaching math there, and then I moved down in 2013 now. And I was teaching math, and actually I was using FlipGrid in my classroom. And it was something that I just absolutely was obsessed with. And I'm the type of educator, as many of us are, is when you fall in love with something, you have to tell every single person that passes you by, you're like, I found this new thing, I have to tell you about it. So I became an ambassador, and I was doing trainings and this and that. And around the same time, I really fell in love with just the educational technology space. Going to conferences, I fell in love with presenting and training teachers and networking in that way. And it was kind of all working together. I didn't know it at that moment, but just the way that things fall into place. And so I hit this point where I knew that I was ready to leave the classroom because of my love for teaching teachers. And, I had such a strong relationship with my students, but I also knew that I'd be able to impact more kids by impacting more teachers. And so when I was ready to make this transition, there was no doubt in my mind of where I needed to be. It was just this seamless thing of, I love FlipGrid and I love sharing it already. And so I want to be a part of it. And so it was just like a no-brainer. And so now I get to share that passion with educators all over. And it's just this really beautiful thing. And I get super excited to talk about it. So I'm pumped for today.
So cool. And how long have you been with FlipGrid? For 2 years?
A little over 2 years. Yeah.
Cool. And so what has it been like since, March and everything? How has it changed for you and your job and your role?
Just like everyone, it kind of turned everything upside down. We found ourselves in this space of what's happening. Education is about to look completely different. And FlipGrid really became a thing of a nice to have to a need to have when you're looking at remote learning. And so we went crazy as well and had 16, 17-hour days that we were working and trying to make sure that the community was supported as best they could. But, for me, and this is the way that I was in the classroom as well, everything always came down to relationships. And so I really, really harped on that with my students that, I don't care how much math you learn. I care that I want you to know that I care about you, and building those relationships. And it really is the same in this role that I have now, but it's like building those relationships with teachers. And so I really wanted to be that support, because teachers, I mean, I always say, like, make the world go round, and somehow in this mess of things, teachers single-handedly kept the world spinning. And, we're resilient, right? And so it's like, hey, you have to do this new thing now. And teachers just did it. Like, it's stressful and it's sad. But it was just like, okay, well, I have to completely change everything I've always done and just do it. So for me, it was really just being that support, whether it be emotional support or actual physical support on the computers of whatever way possible, to make sure that the students were getting the best education that they could in the midst of crap. I don't know what else. I mean,
the crap
really,
storm.
right? Like,
the crap storm.
Yeah, like, who could have seen this coming, But there's been some beauty in it of educators learning, seeing those technologies that have been there, and finally getting a chance to dive into them and learn more about them. And some of those things have been really beautiful, and it's been cool to see how teachers are seeing the importance of getting to know their students and spending time and teaching to the whole child, and making sure that they're okay emotionally as well. So yeah, it's been crazy, all this to say, super, super busy, and it died down for a little bit, but was still, compared to the year before, was still way off the charts. But then, of course, we ramped back up as schools went back into session, and while people are just navigating this interesting dynamic of some are hybrid, some are in person, some are, I don't know how it is where you all are, but in Florida, we went back, goodness, it's 5 weeks ago now. And it was just straight, like, go back to school. And so some students had the option to choose to stay at home, but it was still very much back to normal, as normal can be. So it's just been really interesting as people are navigating what that looks like.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you talking, and it feels like it hasn't been so long since I've seen you, because I saw you a few times at the beginning of this year before everything happened, yeah. Because we were in London, literally around the wall from each other, because I was with Bunsey and Booker was on the other side on the corner spot, and I could peek around the corner and see you there. And then I saw you, I think at TCEA eating lunch, like we're in the same restaurant, both like in our computers working, but
us by ourselves.
I know. And I mean, what a different world from then till now. And I even just said, Melody laughs when I say this, like, I haven't been in a store in like 6 months. And it's like, how do you get things? Well, I mean, curbside, those types of things. Yeah. But just like
your husband,
who could have imagined things, it's just like, what do you do? But the thing that I find so interesting is when it comes to tools and things that are out there for technology, especially at the end of the last school year, and I forget how you just said it now, but I was thinking the same thing. Like, not that we wanted this, but I kept referring to it as the worst, most awful wake-up call that you never wanted, you wanted to ignore. But in that same sense, it kind of forced us to think fast. Okay, what can we do differently? How can we make this work? And so with FlipGrid too, I mean, I'm surprised at how many educators still don't necessarily know about it, or the different features. I know. Yeah. I'm thinking, like, how do you not know? And I used it today with my 8th graders to do a quick response, because I love the different integrations like Wonderopolis, and I can have them post. But anyway, so just listening to you, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just saw you, but yet
I can't believe that was this year.
I know. It feels like January was 10 years ago or 2 years
Seriously,
ago.
Like, I just saw you, and so long ago at the same time.
I know.
That is insane to me. Oh my gosh.
It is.
So I want to offer this question. I love, Rachelle, how you naturally just kind of made a segue into this and how you're using FlipGrid. And so if you're watching, please drop a comment. Let us know how you're using it in your classroom. We really would love to know. And it sounded like I said classroom instead of classroom. Or rooms. Okay, we're all ladies here. But how, Jess, tell us what's new. And those of you watching, please share how you're using it, if you are.
Well, let me even start by telling you how I was using it, what made me fall in love with it in the first place, because I love to tell these stories. So again, math, so many times people think that math and technology don't have a place together. And so I was using it to really, I'm a huge Joe Bowler fan, and she really talks about like intentional work, especially as it pertains to homework, for instance, and not just giving rote memorization stuff just for the sake of giving rote memorization. And so I always would do flip grids every Friday. The students knew that over the weekend at some point, or even if they did it in class or whatever, they were just to talk about what mistakes they made. I wanted it to be a very purposeful reflection for them, that they said, okay, here's what I was learning, here's the mistakes that I made, and here's what I learned from that, because that's what math is all about, right? But especially when we were in school, I feel like it was so scary to make a mistake because everyone's going to think you're stupid and all of this stuff. So I wanted them just to be so in the habit of doing that and then be like, oh my gosh, Rachelle made the same mistake that I did. This is not a big deal at all. It's okay. And so that was something that we just always did, just to have those conversations. And then one of my other favorite things was I had students do tutorials for different standards. So anything that they felt super comfortable on, they would grab a dry erase board and walk through it. And then by the time that the spring came and testing was happening, I had my own Khan Academy, essentially, of my students giving tutorials on every standard that we had covered, because who remembers what you did in October? And so it was nice for them to go back and hear it from their peers as well, and just kind of have that, just spark that memory and like, oh yeah, I did learn this, and practice that way. But I found the benefit of it when I had a student who has autism, and really struggled with communicating with his peers. So he's had a hard time articulating what he was thinking and what he was wanted to do with his math. And so whenever he would get behind the screen, and I hung a shower curtain in my classroom, and so they had like a recording studio so they could pretend that they were away from everyone and go sit. And when he was recording, and he would do these beautifully eloquent videos and be able to articulate exactly his thought process and show that he knew the math and all these things, because he wasn't thinking about, am I making eye contact? Am I being weird? Am I saying something wrong? And then he would respond to his peers, and they would have these gorgeous conversations that they weren't able to have in person necessarily. And so it was just this moment for me of like, oh my gosh, this tool, and I don't even want to say the tool, it's just the power of student voice, right? Is something that is so, when we take away some of those extra barriers that are there, that have just been ingrained into us, really beautiful things happen. So long story of saying that's the way, like, that's what made me fall in love with it. And that's how I use it. But even since then, in the past couple of years, there has been so many changes. And something that I absolutely love about this company is that we are constantly listening. And that's part of my role. So my fancy title is the Educator Innovation Lead. There's three of us, and we're kind of the liaison between, all three of us were educators. So we know where teachers are coming from, but we're the liaison between the education community and the engineers, because sometimes there is a disconnect there with different tools. And so we're constantly listening to the community and saying, okay, here's the things that they're asking for, here's what we need. And we have all these conversations with the developers, and so much, almost everything of any changes, any updates that we do is based on community feedback. And we want to make sure that educators have all of the tools they need in order to be successful. So I even think back like, oh my gosh, if I was in the classroom right now, how different it would look, because it's a totally different FlipGrid from 2.5 years ago. But there are some really incredible updates that have happened. I mean, I can go into them if you want, or we can just carry on, whatever. Okay, so yeah, go ahead, Melody.
Oh, no, I was going to say, yeah, I had muted myself because I have kids in the background. I'm trying not to talk open mouth, so it looks weird. But definitely tell us about the exciting new changes. I know there was a lot of celebration just a few weeks ago about all the new things that are happening. So yes, please share.
Sure. So we've had a lot of changes to the camera itself, just adding in additional pieces so that students can really be creative in order to tell their story. So whether that be like frames, like with like neon frames and breaking news and all sorts of different fun things like that and different filters. One of my favorite is we have, it's like block mode it's called, and then we have a pixel mode as well. And it kind of distorts the student's face just enough that they can have an additional level of confidence. So sometimes we have, especially like Rachelle, you have 8th grade. So especially like students that are like, I don't want my video being shown, it kind of allows them to hide a little bit, but then still be able to speak their mind. So different fonts, and every teacher loves a good font. So you can change the background color of the font. You can change, all sorts of stuff. And then one of my personal favorite as a math teacher is we have different boards. So there's like a whiteboard, a blackboard, graph paper, dot paper, and you can have it be the full screen. You can have it be half and half. So your video's on one side and then the board's here, and you can actually do digital inking. And so I always just think about like, oh my gosh, having students write out the math problems and be able to talk through it while they're solving that, just to have that audio and visual support is really incredible. Oh my gosh. Yes. Virtual small group counseling responses.
Yes, I know, right? That's really cool. That's very innovative.
Yeah.
I don't know who this person is, but thank you for responding. And I hope thank you, Facebook user. Tell us how you're using it. I love this. And I love all the different changes. And now that you're talking about them, of course, they're coming more to mind. But yes, what are some ways that you've seen teachers use it in a very innovative way, just like this person has been using?
So even with that virtual groups, counseling groups, we have something called video moderation that you can turn on. So it's basically a way that educators can set it so that the videos come directly to them and that the whole class doesn't see them at first. And then they can decide if they want to activate it or whatnot. For me, I taught middle school. So of course I had that on at the beginning just to make sure, hey, just so you know, Mrs. Boyce is going to watch every single one of these videos. Hi, Betsy.
Thanks, Betsy.
So I think that would be a really great way in order to do counseling stuff like that. We had an educator out in California named Eric Garcia who uses that feature in order to, he calls it Mr. Garcia's inbox. And he has little ones. And, sometimes with first graders, they want to tell you anything, hey, I saw the grass was green today, or they want to tell you something really important, but how do you differentiate between those, right? And so, he just has this inbox where it's, okay, go ahead and leave a video for me. And so then on his own time, he can go through and see which things warrant a response, or if there's, they might just want to tell you that whatever, like that they played a soccer game or something like that, but it might be something more important that then he can go from there and figure out what to do about it. But I love that way. And he never makes the videos active. Of course, he just leaves them for himself, that he can really have that private conversation with the students. But goodness, we have seen so many cool things. We actually just started a new blog called FlipGrid Fresh. And so we're constantly adding in different fresh ideas that we see from the community. And so we've seen like birthday celebrations, of course, that's been huge with digital learning, because you think about, especially in elementary school, that's a really big day for students. And so teachers are making topics that all of their, yes, exactly, that all of their, the classmates can then give birthday wishes. And then we've seen it even beyond that, because, we all have birthdays too. And so people are making them for their grandma, they're making them for whomever, and sending it to people around the world. And they're all, I know I've even had tons of educators reach out to me. Hey, it's my son's birthday. Can you record? Yeah, sure. And so then suddenly they're like, hey, here's people from all over the world that are wishing you happy birthday. How cool is that? So we've seen a lot of fun, innovative stuff. People are using it to take attendance. We see virtual help desks. My one coworker was at a wedding, but it was the guest book. So it's really, yeah, I fall in love with it every day, because just when I think that I know all of the uses, people are so incredible and so innovative and come up with all these new ideas. Our entire team, all 50 of us, go on Twitter all the time. And we use the hashtag FlipGrid for all. And our CEO tells us, start the day just scrolling through that hashtag, because it will like fill you up and give you such incredible ideas, and just like, it makes me like, I'm ready to go. Yeah, let's start the day, because you just see all these like heartwarming stories. Especially one of my favorite things as back to school time is educators using to get to know their students, but to learn how to pronounce their names. That's something that is so, so important.
Yes.
So important, and so every time I see that, it just like, oh my gosh, it makes me so happy. I think about, one year I got my roster, and immediately, to as many parents as I could get, I sent a FlipGrid, and it was just like, tell me, I had one for the parents. Tell me what I need to know about your student. Just anything goes. And then with the students I had, especially because I had 6th grade, so they were coming to middle school for the first time, I had them say, what they're excited about, what they're scared about, and just things about them. And so a lot of students did it. And so then on the first day of school, I already knew their names, I knew their faces, and I knew, oh, your favorite color is yellow, and you went here over the summer, and all of these different things. And it just was, I love seeing FlipGrid used for community building. I think that that's really, really important.
Yeah, that for like the start of this year, I'm fortunate because teaching Spanish and STEAM, the majority of the students that I have, I've had in the year prior, whether either in Spanish or if I had them in 8th grade and then they take Spanish. So I know a lot of them, but my new 8th grade students, and then of course, students that are new to our school, wanting to get to know them. And so I had them do a short FlipGrid video. And of course I recorded myself trying to put all the cool, background effects in. And first time I did, I'm not going to lie, like I ended up chopping it, deleting, whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I redid it 3 or 4 times. And I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm just, whatever it is, but it's so much fun. I actually used it today for actually 2 classes. The one was I created just a short lesson on verbs, and I was screen sharing, and there's me in the corner, and I'm laughing because the page wasn't loading, and I'm narrating. Oh, well, hopefully the page loads now. Okay. And I mean, I could edit that or whatever, but I'm just like, you know what, like mistakes, it's natural. And if I'm going to ask students to do something like this or to record videos, then I need to do it. But the one thing that you mentioned too that I like is setting it so that you have to moderate it, because some of my students are, and not just mine, I mean, a lot of students are afraid to speak up, which it's funny because when they're in the class, sometimes they're often the ones that are speaking up. But when it comes to the video and putting themselves out there and having them all there, I know there are some, and I was like that too, that are hesitant to speak. So having that option that it is hidden. And then I get all the messages last week that say, I don't think my video recorded and the screen went black and it wasn't there. And I'm like, totally fine. I just said it. It's just for me. And even in the past, for some students, I've set up their own space where they can use that one space and do all of their, all their responses, because I need it for speaking assessments too, but also to get to know my students. So today we were talking about what is clickbait. And that's not something that I always knew, the term for, but I'm surprised. I mean, my 8th graders know so much in what they offer. So I wanted them to kind of speak to it, but it's hard when you're using Microsoft Teams and if their audio is not working or, they're getting kicked out. And so having FlipGrid for all of those things, for building community, like you said, for getting to know students, for getting to know the families, I found out about it, I think it was 4 years ago, and I was using a different tool at the time. And I happened to see Joey at the stand. I might have told you this story too. And I was just racing through, I think it was FETC. And I saw it and I was like, I only have 2 minutes to get somewhere. And I literally walked backwards. I said, okay, I only have about a minute. What can you tell me about FlipGrid? And that was it. And then I went and tried it. And then, we've been using it ever since. And of course, the amount of things the features in it now has grown just unbelievably since then, of course. But it's a lot of fun to see what's out there now with all the integrations. And with teachers not having enough time to be able to start with something that it's really done for you. You just have to shift it to make it meet your students' needs or the levels of your content. So
yeah. And that's something that so that was something we introduced relatively new as well, all of those partners that you're speaking of. And I think that it's really great because there is an extra level of comfort. Maybe I haven't used FlipGrid before, but I know what Bunsy is, right? And so maybe I haven't used it, but I know, any of these different things. And so we have all of these partners that have come and provided completely free resources for educators. And the topics are all done. All you have to do is add it to your own group and you're ready to share it. And I mean, It is like Lego Education, the BBC, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, all of these incredible places. And then we've had it's cool for me too, because I'm learning of companies that I didn't even know. Like we have this one called Anti-Defamation League that is pretty new, and they have the topics that are in there are like, these conversations that should be happening with students are incredible. We have Let's Talk Science, the Equal Justice Initiative, Genially. I mean, it goes on and on. And so, and that's the thing too, is we're constantly partnering with new people and putting out more content. But it's really nice to know that educators have a place where they can get these free resources, because that's a really hard thing. You know, we're always looking to find new things, and it's like, oh, this is great. And then, you know, the shoe drops of how much it costs. And you're like, okay,
Right.
I'll talk to my IT people who I know are going to say no, right? There's like that whole cycle that all of us go through. And so I am so proud that FlipGrid is free. And that's something that happened whenever Microsoft acquired us about 2.5 years ago. And they really loved our message and wanted to make it so that that was a commitment to educators, that this is going to completely be free and going to continue to be free. And so then it's really cool too to have those additional resources, those additional partnerships that come in as well, so that we can make sure that educators have the resources that they need.
Yeah, I remember that announcement about it being free, and like educators went, but they're like, what? Is it free? Like, are you sure? I didn't believe, but yeah,
Right.
with all the partners, like you mentioned, and I know, you know, Bunsey recently with having some of the templates in there, and that's what I love, because I use Bunsey so much, and being able to add that on. Also, the fact that it has immersive reader, which is just huge for all of these different tools, to have that when you're looking at students building their skills or in terms of accessibility. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about it.
The immersive reader is unbelievable. And I remember when that came out, but it was an attachment that you had to get. And, you know I couldn't get it on my student devices. So then I would have to have a student come sit at my desk, which if you're a struggling reader and you need these additional supports, you don't want to have to go sit at the teacher's computer, because then everyone knows what you're doing anyway. And so whenever it finally became like everywhere, the immersive reader's everywhere. And it is hands down the best tool I've ever seen that can be, you know, I mean, I absolutely love it. So I'm super proud that it's in FlipGrid as well.
Me too. No, I mean, I'm super glad that it's in there, I should say. Oh.
Yeah. Well, we are coming to the end of our time together. So I just want to thank you, Jess, for joining us today and sharing so many insights on how FlipGrid is, you know, enhancing education all the way around, whether you're meeting virtually with your class or face-to-face. And I love so much how you talked about your experiences with your students and how the inclusivity is just such a positive thing. And Rachelle, thank you so much for sharing yours too. And so if you're not watching us live, you can watch this after we're live, and please drop your comments on how you're using it. We really want to know, and just listening gets me excited how ed tech is just this is one component, but how innovation is just leading to more innovation with students and with teachers. And I love how FlipGrid listens to the community, the voices of, you know, educators and students. So kudos to all of you. It's just amazing. And I also want to remind our community that if you have created any blogs or YouTubes and you want to share it today, feel free to share it. We want to hear what you're up to also. And ladies, before we go, is there anything that you would like to say before we leave for the week?
Yeah, I have just a couple of things.
Go ahead.
So just some things that are coming up that I'm super excited about. So tomorrow we have this incredible panel. It's actually a continuation from over the summer. We're having it's conversations about race, equity, and justice, and what it looks like to be equitable in the classroom. So that's at 5 p.m. Central Time. And you can find it like either on our Facebook page or on our YouTube page. And if it's anything like the summer one, which I'm sure it's going to be, it was hands down one of the best panels I've ever seen. So I would highly recommend coming to that. And then also very, very soon, we have text comments that are coming out, which is super exciting. So right now you can only reply via video, but now you'll be able to watch a student's video, and there will be public facing comments that students and educators can can reply with. So
Wow.
that's going to be a huge deal. I'm really excited.
Yes, it is huge. Both of them. Thank you for sharing that. And how can people join that for tomorrow again?
So on our Facebook page, so facebook.com/FlipGrid or youtube.com/FlipGrid, you will see it right there pop up.
Great. Thank you.
Of course.
I had something.
Yes, go ahead, Rachelle.
Well, I was going to ask Jess if there was anything coming up, but but she got that. But I had to say that I think it was last week, Mike makes all of these like Microsoft updates and whatever, and so by far, like I love when I see the FlipGrid, the different things that you do with Anne and Adam running through the streets or whatever. But I'm pretty sure my favorite one was talking about how you can mute all participants and you're all in the thing. If anybody hasn't seen it, just check out Mike's videos on YouTube for the Microsoft updates, because the FlipGrid team, and it was hilarious. I was laughing so hard because I know so many of you in there, and I think you were in the center, and it was just so funny. Really funny. Yeah. But anyway,
I definitely want to check that out. Well, thank you all for, thank you, Jess, for coming. Thank you, Rachelle. It was so good to see you. And for everybody tuning in, whether it was on Twitter or Facebook, thank you so much. We want you to come and join our community, and have a great week. We'll see you at Thrive O'Clock on Friday. Bye, everybody.
Bye.